Hello everyone, just a quick heads up before we get started. It's raining outside, so you might hear some background noise throughout this video. Thanks for tuning in, and if you're new here, then don't forget to subscribe, turn on your notification bell so that you don't have to miss on any of our interesting videos. I welcome you to today's video where we take a stunning display of self-awareness and introspection. Now in this video, Latinos are coming forward to confront the elephant in the room, anti-blackness within their own community. In the first video, a Latino man's heartfelt confession sets the tone for a powerful discussion as he acknowledges the pervasive articism and internalized oppression that has led to division and harm. Growing up, he recounts hearing Arthur-the-Cis remarks towards Black people and even internalizing those biases himself, feeling the need to be palm-colored to be treated better. Now, this raw honesty shines a light on the complexities of racial identity and the ways in which systemic articism can insidiously perpetuate itself. The consequences of this anti-blackness are far-reaching, with some Latinos recognizing that their support for Trump has caused irreparable harm to their own community. By voting against their own interests, they've perpetrated a cycle of oppression that now requires reckoning and repair. So as we take a look into this critical conversation, we'll explore the intricacies of anti-blackness, internalized articism, and the urgent need for self-reflection and accountability within the Latino community. So with that said, let's take a look at these videos. I will be right back.
Let me just talk about the anti-blackness that exists in the Latino community because it's a real thing. And it is only further perpetuating the division between our two communities and contributing to the overall oppression of our two communities. And I know there's going to be some people out there that's like, that's not even a thing. That's not a real issue. But it is. I grew up hearing freaking remarks made towards Black people. And I heard it often. And I know so many other people did. And not only is it about anti-blackness, it's also about internalized racism that some Latinos, including myself when I was a child, felt the need to be white because I saw white people being treated better. And in my mind, I'm like, well, if I'm white, or if I consider myself white, or if I tell people that I'm white, then I am going to be treated better. I didn't understand as a child why I even felt that, but we are socialized as a society to want that unless you break out of the freaking matrix and you realize, oh my gosh, we're all being oppressed by the same freaking systems. So for us to have division and for there to be anti-blackness in our community is not helping anyone. One, it's just wrong, but two, it's only further perpetuating the oppression that already exists in our freaking society. So there's that part. And then there's this whole dismissal of Afro-Latinos because Afro-Latinos exist, yet sometimes are classified as not Latino, when in reality, they are Latinos, Afro-Latinos. And then there's this whole freaking connection to where we find ourselves in American history, okay? And the fact that many people, many Latinos, Latino men in particular, did not want to vote for a black and Asian, but a Black woman, okay? And then there's the intersection of machismo, internalized anti-blackness, and all of it contributing, again, to the further perpetuation of oppression of our communities. That's what I need people to understand. When there's division between our two communities, that is purposeful, okay? Because these systems, these people in power want us to be infighting, when in reality, there's a lot more that we have in common. We are also being oppressed by the same systems. We should be supporting each other. And it is because of Black people and their advocacy that we, as Latinos and other communities, have the civil rights that we have today. The ability for us to even be able to have that privilege was in large due part to Black people, okay? So I need us to understand that. And I need us to have a conversation about that, because even if we were brought up that way, that doesn't mean that we can't change. That doesn't mean that we can't do better, because we can. Okay? Even if society socializes to believe that, we can change, we can do better.
As someone who belongs to both the Mexican, Indigenous, and Black communities, I'm going to do my best to mediate and bring a level of understanding. So imagine that you are the Black community, and for the 2024 election cycle, you think that you are working together with the Latino community and other groups of marginalized people within this country to protect all of our rights. together. But after the election, the Black community finds out that the Latino community and other marginalized groups abandoned the Black community and instead voted with the Klan to help the Klan take away all of our rights. How mad would you be? Most of the Black community saying that they're going to call ICE is also just a lot of hurt feelings and speaking out of anger. It's one thing for the Black community to speak out of anger and say that they are calling ICE. It is something completely different when you have your own Latino community vote with the Klan to have ICE come and deport and their own Latino families in their own Latino communities. Something that you really need to understand, and that you really need to understand fast, like today, is that the Black community is not your enemy and never has been your enemy. Throughout history, all marginalized groups of people have benefited from any and all civil rights wins by the Black community. We in marginalized groups have all enjoyed freedoms and civil rights because of the Black community. You are directing your anger and your disrespect at the wrong group of people. We have a long 4 years ahead of us, and I strongly suggest that you stop making these inflammatory posts about the Black community and focus your attention on the groups of people who are actually working to strip your rights away. You don't have to be best friends with the Black community, but we don't have to be fighting with each other either.
Do y'all really regret voting for him after seeing all these videos and hearing about all these deportations and all these raids that ICE is doing? Like, do y'all really like regret it, or you're still like okay with it because it's not affecting you directly? Like, I just don't understand how a lot of people do not have empathy. Like, I would feel so freaking bad if I made such a decision of voting for someone like him and knowing that it has affected so many lives, and it will still continue to affect so many lives. It's not about, oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. Like, it just makes me so mad that, I don't know, a lot of you are just so quiet, and it's so sad seeing the videos. I just saw a video of this lady that she said her mom got deported. The mom is probably over like 50 years old. Like, what is the mom? Like, she's not a criminal. She's not a criminal. She just came here illegally, unfortunately. But I mean, like, over 50 years old, and you think she's a criminal? I just don't. I don't know. There's U.S. citizens that are criminals, taking advantage of the system. Yeah, I just don't understand. But oh my gosh, I just wanted to get that out because it's so upsetting. Like, people have no compassion, no empathy, and it's sad.
First of all, to my Black community, I just want to tell you that I love you so much. Your culture was such an integral part of me growing up. It was a way that I felt seen and part of a culture when I feel like Latins, Hispanic people weren't really shown as much. So I really clung on to just people of color. And I want to start that off with saying thank you. Secondly, I understand why you're sitting this one out. I truly do. Latinos for Trump have done some serious damage, and the payback that they're getting now is FAFO. And, for Latinos to get on here and start this other divide and conquer of where are Black people, we stood with them during the Black Lives Matter movement. They're sitting this one out. We voted against our own interests, and then you have the other group of Latinos that are like, well, I came here the legal way, so that doesn't matter. Is your skin brown? They don't care that you have a piece of paper. You are still subhuman to them. And the quicker you get that through your thick skull, the quicker we might actually be able to survive this. You will never be one of them. And that's okay. You shouldn't want to be one of them. I really, in my heart, wish that humanity would just stand up for humanity right now. But it is on no one's shoulders but our own community to fix this at the moment. Because we did it to ourselves. We weren't part of the 92% that voted for what should have been our president right now. The Latino community did this to themselves. They voted for this hate. They voted for this mass deportation. So before you hop on here and try to cause more divide, look into your own community, because we did it to ourselves.
Over the weekend, I saw a few Latina women going viral. Latina women that voted for Trump pleading to the Black community, hey, one day you'll need us. Stop, kicking us when, what are you saying? Like, you voted for this man. Everybody told you what he was going to do. Black folks told you what he was going to do. He told you what he was going to do. And now you're crying about it?
How about this, Laura? We asked you to be with us during the election. So there was an opportunity just a few weeks ago for us to be unified in making sure what's happening right now didn't happen. But y'all thought Black people was playing. Y'all thought Black people just bring up race too much. Y'all came to this country thinking, oh, Black people are lazy. No.
You played yourself.
We've been telling y'all, they don't want you to be successful if you're not white. I have been on this radio so many times saying, yo, if anything, you might be conservative, fiscally conservative, whatever, but the only thing that protects people in rural America who are not white is the federal government. All that's on pause. Free.
When you come on this app and you make a video as a Latino, and I'm not specifically referring to one person because I've seen at least 2 or 3 videos of this and I can't even remember who, but asking where are the Black people in terms of their support for the Latino community during these obviously hard times with, racial profiling and mass deportations and ICE raids. Those types of videos are just always like opening up the opportunity for the comment section to be either super anti-Black or for xenophobic comments towards Latinos to happen. It's not productive. I don't understand the point of it. I've seen multiple Black people on this app voice their support for our community. And I hate the comparison. Well, we were there for them during the Black Lives Matter movement. Bro, if you support a cause, do it from the goodness of your heart, not because you're expecting something in return. I hate that.
Now, before I even share my 2 cents on this topic, I just want to share Professor Tanya K. Hernandez's article titled, There is Anti-Black Articism and Colorism in the Latino Community. And I must say that she's bold enough to talk about it. Now, she says, with the 2020 unaliving of George Floyd igniting a racial reckoning in our country and the Black Lives Matter movement becoming more mainstream, the subsequent marches and protests have mobilized Latinos to confront articism and anti-Blackness within their own communities. Despite data from the latest census showing that more than 2/5 of Americans now identify as people of color, additional nuance is needed when considering how someone chooses to identify with respect to their heritage, race, and ethnicity. Per a recent survey from the Pew Research Center, many Afro-Latinos still struggle with identifying as Black, and nearly a quarter of the respondents misidentified their race as Hispanic, which is an ethnicity, not a race. Now, Tanya K. Hernandez is the Archibald R. Murray Professor of Law at the Fordham University School of Law, a renowned and prolific scholar and writer. She recently authored her latest book, Racial Innocence, Unmasking Latino Anti-Black Bias and the Struggle for Equality, to tackle the impacts of articism within the Latino community. While the book is grounded in research, it is also an acutely personal subject for Hernandez, who self-identifies as Afro-Latina. As she concludes in the book's epilogue, what drove me to persist with a painstaking hunt for the narratives of discrimination when so many Latino scholars and commentators instead suggest that Latino and Blackness does not merit deep exploration. My family history as an Afro-Latina would not permit otherwise. This is because embodying blackness within a Latino family can so deeply ground one in the materiality of Latino bias that fantasies of Latino colorblind unity are unable to interfere with a questioning of Latino racial attitudes. Now, Tanya K says the other part is really a very personal one. My family is from Puerto Rico, and I've traveled around much Latin America and the Caribbean. And what has always been very disconcerting to me is the way in which Latin Americans and Caribbeans talk out of two sides of their mouths when it comes to race. Out of one side, there is this sense of superiority compared to the United States as being more racially evolved. We don't have articism, or at least not articism like in the United States. We are all mixed, so we can't possibly be articist. We don't see color, blah, blah, blah. Then out of the other side of the mouth is this mitigating commentary about blackness as negative. But how can you be professing to be so racially evolved while at the same time there's all this anti-blackness being spoken? She says, so I wanted to explore the ways in which things I heard growing up and continue to see as an adult with Latino communities as part of the racial pathologies and the racial discourse transmitted into actions on the ground that were discriminatory and hence part of articism. Now, Tanya says, here's the thing that I like to be very emphatic about. While it is useful to talk about colorism, I always like to say that colorism is not separate from articism. Colorism is one manifestation of articism. And the example I think that makes this very clear within Latino communities is that even a person who is light-skinned beats their hair into submission so it looks like good hair, i.e. European hair. The moment they open their mouth and reveal that there are these other people in the family who are darker, they are not treated in the same kind of way. We say that the one drop is only about the United States, and it may not be called a one drop rule within Latin America, but there is a keen sense of noticing people's ancestry. It's not just about color because it's not just about what you look like. It's about what is viewed as the problematic aspects of your background, and that is African ancestry. It's about viewing a particular designated racial grouping or origin of Africanness as a problem. Now, this can't be divorced from the way in which slavery was created and justified through mechanisms of racial discourse that treated Africanness as problematic, decadent, and inherently inferior. When you have someone who's light-skinned, but their hair doesn't match the understanding of what light-skinned should look like, that is viewed as a problem in Latino communities. And we've got special names for that. We don't just have a word for blackness. We have a word for black, but with a big nose. Black, but with curly hair. So there's all kinds of ways in which there is taxonomy to finely tune itself to everything that's really negative about Africanness. That's about articism. That's not just solely about aesthetic reaction to pigment. When people want to talk about the Latino race problem as primarily about colorism, I think too much get lost. Now, through my research and after watching these numerous videos from these Latinos themselves, it's become glaringly apparent that the root of this issue lies in internalized biases. Many Latinos have been conditioned to conform to palm-coloredness, believing that by doing so, they'll receive better treatment and acceptance. Now, this phenomenon is a direct result of systemic articism and the perpetuation of Eurocentric standards. For centuries, Latinos have been socialized to aspire to palm-coloredness, often at the expense of their own cultural identity. Now, this internalized articism manifests in various ways, from colorism and anti-blackness to the erasure of indigenous heritage. It is a painful reminder that the legacy of colonialism and slavery continues to shape the experiences of Latinos today. Now, this was evident. The recent elections laid bare the insidious reality of anti-blackness within the Latino community. It's really surprising how some Latinos voted against their own interests, seemingly convinced that they are not people of color. Now, this delusion stems from a deep-seated desire to be seen as palm color, to be treated as superior. By voting for Donald Trump, they believe they would be shielded from the harsh realities of articism and treated with special privilege. And this phenomenon is rooted in internalized biases and a distorted sense of identity. As discussed in Thinking with the Spectral, anti-blackness in the Hispanophone and Anglophone Caribbean, the legacy of colonialism and slavery has perpetuated a culture of anti-blackness where lighter skin is often associated with superiority. Now, the consequences of this self-delusion are far-reaching. By supporting Trump, Latinos who harbor anti-black sentiments have in effect voted against their own community's interests. They've enabled policies that exacerbate income inequality, restrict access to healthcare, and perpetuate systemic articism. And it's good that some of them know that this is on them, this is their fault, and this is all them. And they shouldn't be complaining about black people sitting this one out because they did this to themselves. They voted against their own interest. We have finally come to the end of the video, but what do our viewers have to say? Share your thoughts, your views, your contributions in the comment section. Thank you for always watching, and see you in our next video as we bring you another interesting video.